Here now to react is Karl Rove, former senior advisor to President George W. Bush. He is also a Fox News contributor. I mean, that was a very interesting statement. I mean, first of all, when he said the picture of me that has been painted or has come forward, we're like, we saw a lot of pictures. And we didn't have to do any painting or imagining. I mean, I can't believe he used the word picture so that we could all have that horrible image of him groping. I mean, there's a million photos like this. Like, this isn't the only one. At the same time, Karl, he basically admitted to nothing. You know, he said, I think I gave some people the false impression that I was admitting to doing things that, in fact, I haven't done. Well, if he's going to stand there and insist he hasn't done anything, why is he resigning?
Yeah. Well, look, I agree. It was the most, you know, that resignation speech was one of the at least admissions of guilt of anybody I've ever seen. He said some of it wasn't true, and he didn't remember the others happening that way. There was no, I've made a mistake, I apologize, none of it all. It's either those women were liars or they're depicting in a way that doesn't match with his recollection. So they're, well, you know what? You know what? I think it's because he knows he's dead to rights. These women were very, I mean, these things were very pointed. They came from credible sources. The women, you know, I found him credible, and I think he realized that he could not stay, that the pressure would continue to build, but he wanted to get out in his way, so he said it on the floor of the Senate, and he spent more time attacking Donald Trump and Roy Moore than he did in admitting his own guilt. I mean, he had zero time admitting his own guilt. Yeah,
so that's what makes you wonder. I mean, you saw the pile-on of Democrats yesterday, and what it looked like as he came out and onto the floor was that he felt like he was the martyr or the sacrificial lamb that was going down so that Democrats could set themselves up to try and take down potentially Roy Moore if he's elected. And maybe, you know, there's a lot of folks on social media who say this is heading right for President Trump. That's what they're setting up for.
You know, I don't think so. I'm sure the Democrats will try and do that. They'll seize on any excuse to go after the president. But I think there were a lot of Democrats, particularly Democratic women, who said, you know, enough is enough. I mean, what are we up to now? 6? And several of them served as staff members, and some of them were known to the Democratic members of the Senate, and they were highly credible. And so I think they said he's got to go, and particularly after John Conyers, because again, several of the people involved were congressional staff aides, and several of them well-known to Democrats in the Senate. So I think they just said enough is enough. Now, does it give them some leverage if Roy Moore is elected? Yeah, but I find it far-fetched to say we're going to sacrifice the ranking Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee and Al Franken in order to get at Roy Moore. They got plenty of ammunition to go at Roy Moore from the public record. They didn't need this in order to do it.
Well, but if they purge themselves of him and of Conyers right now, I mean, then you don't think that gives them the exact ground they were looking for. I mean, it seems like timing-wise, that's the setup, so they could get together and say, bring the women out, you know, for Roy Moore, and potentially bring those accusers out for President Trump and say, and now you must be impeached.
Yeah, look, I find the women who have come forth about Judge Moore to be highly credible as well. That's up for public opinion to determine in Alabama and for the Senate Ethics Committee. But I find it hard to believe that they would then move to think how hypocritical it would look for Democrats to say, you know what, we were against impeachment would involve the action of the President of the United States having oral sex just outside the Oval Office. And we defended President Clinton in that regard, but we're going to go after Donald Trump for things that happened well before he became president. I don't know that that's highly credible.
I don't know. I think they'd try anything. Let's move on to Robert Mueller's investigation. You wrote a fantastic op-ed titled "Why Donald Trump Would Regret Firing Robert Mueller." Karl, I mean, do you think he's really considering this? Because it does seem like it would be a terrible idea.
Well, there's been some discussion about it. Conservative commentators and some of his strong supporters are talking about it. And the president last July was asked in an interview with the New York Times, if Mueller began to look into your finances, your personal finances, would that be a red line? And he said it would be. And then he was then asked, well, would you fire Mueller? And he said, well, I'm not going to answer that because I don't think it's going to happen. Well, this week on Wednesday, it was revealed that Mueller had asked Deutsche Bank for records of individuals, not Trump or his family members, but individuals affiliated apparently with Trump or with the Trump real estate organization. It may have been Paul Manafort. We don't really know. But my point was, I wanted to speak out before we got to that point, not after. The president would make a terrible mistake by firing Mueller. And better to focus on what he's doing, have ultimate confidence in the outcome, and express that confidence. The president has said he did nothing wrong, and there is no evidence that there's any collusion with the Russians or that he did anything wrong. So don't fire Mueller, because it would cause people today who are sitting on the fence to say, wait a minute, what has he got to hide? And it would give the Democrats the advantage in the election. They would make this, the 2018 midterms, all about this. Republicans would be on the defensive. Congress would flip to the Democrats, and the president would have one heck of a bad year in 2019 and 2020.
How about they pass tax cuts and get the economy roaring, and then then that's what everybody votes on, because all the rest of this is like, Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Okay, Karl, you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Exactly.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.